This is Take 5 with Bentley, Nevada. In the studio once again with us today is James McDuffie, Senior Staff Software Architect. And James very focused on the Orbit 60 platform right now, but by no means is that his only area of focus. It's really just his present area of focus. And James is more broadly focused across the business on cybersecurity and the whole portfolio. James, we talked a lot about Orbit Studio in a few prior episodes. We talked a little bit about this connection to System 1 in the last episode and kind of unpacked this idea of condition monitoring processor and the segregation from the protection processor using this Orbit Access technology. It's kind of diode-like, but it's not really exactly a diode. I've heard other people say, yeah, it's better than a diode. And where I'd like to go now is just a little bit more on this interface to get the data out of the Orbit 60 platform and into System 1. There's more to it than just the Orbit Access. There's other cybersecure, I think, considerations, and I wonder if you could address those.
Yeah, so just like the protection system, we want to make sure that the condition monitoring system from a business network perspective is just as secure. And so a condition monitoring module will have a certificate so that you know that you're connecting to a valid Bentley Nevada device. So when System 1 is connecting to that device, it will read the certificate and verify that it's correct. You also username and password, so authentication. So when System 1 is connecting to these devices, it has to make sure that it has System 1 authentication to actually be able to connect and pull data. And again, just like the protection system, we're using Transport Layer Security 1.3, and all the communication between the condition monitoring module and System 1 can be encrypted if the client or the customer wants it to be encrypted. So there's a lot of configuration settings, both on the port configuration and the encryption settings. By default, we try to keep it as secure as possible, so everything is fully encrypted by default. So all those are kind of just as important on the condition monitoring side as it is on the protection side.
Well, as I'm thinking about the distinction between OT and IT, System 1 tends to get a lot more enmeshed in the IT world. In a future episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the comm gateway and communications with automation platforms. That tends to be more in the OT realm, but there's security concerns on both of those.
Absolutely.
For obvious reasons. In the System 1 environment, you talked about people being able to and wanting to access that data from the business network and even from the outside world.
Yep.
I mean, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that people can and do work from home.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, me, myself included.
Yeah, and in fact, as we do this, it's being done from a home,
right,
from our home office here. But this idea of being able to get into System 1 from the outside world, talk to us a little bit about those cybersecurity concerns.
Yeah, so System 1 is one of those beautiful products where it's actually been sitting in the secure or what we call the security development lifecycle for a long time. So what that means is go through the standard threat modeling for all the components in System 1. We typically on a release, we do like a red team and blue team assessment. So we get people to come in and actually attack the systems and verify and find all the potential breaks, and we go fix them before we go out the door. And we also do a lot of evaluations on open source software to make sure that there's no known vulnerabilities in any of the open source software that we use. So there really is a very rigorous process around how we build secure products from a Bentley Nevada standard. The other thing on the System 1 side is System 1 has a set of technology called our RX and TX, or replication. And the idea there is you can actually push data from a System 1 on a business network into a cloud network through this third-party data diodes. And so we support a number of different types of actual hardware manufacturers for data diodes, but System 1 as a condition monitoring system, it actually supports pushing data through these really secure networks. And we have customers with multiple parallel data diodes in place on their networks. But something else that we do is we do a lot of like attack testing. So there's a standard out there called the Achilles testing standard. whether it's System 1 or whether it's, the Orbit 60. One of the things that we do as a part of the Blue Team assessment is we make sure that we actually put our systems through these known attack vectors from hackers, whether that's storming the networks or fuzz testing or a whole other series of things. And we just make sure that our systems can stand up to the challenge of making sure that they're still robust and protected systems from a customer's perspective.
Well, it's interesting as you're talking about that. It reminds me of like halt testing for hardware, where you
Absolutely.
shake it, you bake it, you freeze it, and you just push it till it breaks.
That's
and
right.
you learn a lot about it. And kind of hearing the same thing here from a cybersecure standard. We push the envelope till we break it and find a vulnerability if we can.
That's right.
We're going to continue this conversation in the next episode. You have been listening to Take 5 with Bentley, Nevada. Baker Hughes